everybody, Camelia here. Welcome to a new video. Welcome to a very rainy day here in Germany. I think it's going to rain again, but well, I hope you can hear me. Today I am here to share with you my Norah dress, the latest release from SewOverIt, and I think some of you are expecting my video, probably. I'm going to share with you my tips on making this dress, things that I made a little bit different, and of course I'm going to say also why. A second, I have here a cable that is driving me nuts. The Norah dress, I'm going to put my measuring tape also away, and I know you cannot see me all the way, but I'm going to put some pictures here. The Norah dress, as you might see in the release video from SewOverIt, is a pretty simple dress. Actually, it's really not complicated. There are no buttonholes or zippers or stuff like that. It's a wrap dress. It's a true wrap. It's getting tied with a really wide tie belt, and that's like 8 centimeters wide. The waistband that is here is also as wide as the band, is 8 centimeters wide. And then you have the bodice with a lot of gathers here under the bust, and there are also gathers here at the lower part of the back that they are gathering into the flat waistband. And of course the skirt, the back skirt, has gathers here at the back, and also the same, the front is gathering from here somewhere to the side seam. So there are cut-on sleeves with a kind of with a wide hem, so very nice. And of course, as usual, I noticed this because I'm wearing this already for an hour or two, as with a cut dress, with a cut-on sleeve dress, of course you'll be just a little bit restricted in your movement. I mean, if you want to fly, you'll not be able to fly in this dress, but most of us are not flying. So I went with my normal size 12 in SewOverIt, and because I knew that the fit is not so, how should I say, it's not a fit, it is pretty fitted around the waist, of course, but because of the fact that it's a wrap dress and you have the ties, it's pretty easy to adjust the fit. So I did not bother to make a test garment, also because of course I know my fit in SewOverIt patterns, and you know sometimes I'm cutting a 10 for the waist, but this time I just went with a 12 all the way around, and I was thinking if it's going to be too wide here, I'm just going to tie it a little bit tighter. So I made no test garment for this. I did make my usual sway back adjustment. I think I took, how much did I took? I took off, let's see here, 1 centimeter for the center back. And of course, because it's only 1 centimeter, it was really just a little bit of a difference here, but still I did put this one on the fold, matching the upper point of my pattern piece and the lower point. You know, normally I put a piece of paper to make it nicely straight, but in this case I just use the pattern. As you can see, it's not completely straight, so it's not to put on the fold directly, but I did consider this point and put it on the fold. That worked really nice. Of course, I added just a millimeter of width here, the center back, but because it's gathered, you know, this is something really that in this case there are no worries about. So that was my only fit change that I made in the Norah dress. In the instructions there is an one of the steps is to pre-press the crease for the dip hem here on the sleeves, and I highly recommend to do that because I forgot to do it. And I was thinking, when I was trying to get myself a nice equal hem here, you know, when the sleeve was already sewn, was a little bit difficult. So make the crease like the instructions. That's a really good tip. I will talk in a moment about the other change that I made, not so much as a fit change, but as a preference, and also the way the sewing order, I did change it a little bit in order to you know, to accommodate my taste in a particular method. But I'm going to talk about that in a moment. I wanted to talk about the fabric. This fabric is one of the Minerva exclusive challis. Cannot remember the name of the print, but it's a really soft challis with, you know, if you ever used the Minerva challis fabric, and you've seen it here on my channel a lot. I have a lot of garments in this fabric, or in this type of fabric. This one, of course, is very drapey and very soft. I really love this fabric. It's black with a little bit of a grey print and something like goldish color that you almost will think that is a little bit sparkle, but it's not. It's a really great fabric. So I had 3 meters of this fabric, and the requirements were more. And I can understand that, because it was really difficult to get the whole dress out of this 3 meters. And I had to cut a little bit, I think the ties, they are not cut on the same grain as per instructions, because there was no way to cut them like that. I had to use for the inside of the waistband, and for the inside of the band I had to use some other challis from other fabric, you know, you don't see it. And I did cut also the pockets. There are patch pockets, big patch pockets on this dress. You can see them here. You know, from the beginning I was thinking, well, I'm not going to put them on because my fabric is really soft, and I was pretty sure that they are going to gape a lot. I'm just going to try to go a little bit. Can you see that? They are really big. Oh, I hear a dog. They are really big, but I'm pretty sure that in this soft fabric they are going to hang a little bit. So, and also I'm not one to use too much patch pockets. So, and I was thinking, you know, the dress has already pretty much volume here, and I don't need to have the pockets, you know, hanging on my side, on my hips here. So the pockets, I did have fabric to cut them out, but in the end I am not going to use them. My first thought on what fabric to use for this dress was an petrol blue color viscose linen, and it was something of this weight. This one is another color. It's a pretty thin fabric. I think it's just a little bit thinner than the one from Minerva. This is, I think this is just a tiny bit heavier than the other one. But as long as you are happy with the volume that the gathers will give you, I think this will also work really nicely. This is a leftover from a blouse, but Minerva has also some more quiet prints. In this one, of course, I mean, also in my dress you cannot really see the details, and that's a really big shame that you cannot see, or I cannot see all the sweet gathers. And this is a pink, also the same kind of viscose linen. It's looking almost like a purple, but it's actually a really powder pink. This will also be really nice. So as a fabric, I think this kind of soft viscose linen and challis will work really nicely, and so very light linens. I will not go with a really heavy linen, because you're going to get a lot of you know, volume around the hips and around the waist, and then you have the really tight fitted waist here. That's not a very good look, in my opinion. So, and of course this one also will work really nicely, and here you'll definitely see a little bit more detail than in the one that I'm wearing. But that one is also going to become full wrap dress from another designer with long sleeves and flowers and stuff. But coming back to the Norah dress, I'm just going to put it off, I think, to show you the inside of the dress. But before that, the change that I made, what I was talking a little bit earlier, was the fact that I left the band, so there is a band that is double, of course, and is around the neckline and all the way again down to the hem. And the original neck band, I'm going to call it, this is the front one, and that's why it's also eating a lot of fabric, because you know you have these really long pieces. And the original width of the band is 5 minus 3 centimeters for the seam allowance, so the original finished width is 2 centimeters. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this too. So the original width is only 2 centimeters, and I don't know if you can see, mine is almost 3. And this is something that it's a personal preference. In my opinion, I did not really like the width of the band, so the 2 centimeters, but that was something really easy to adjust. And how did I get to the idea to adjust it? Because I was thinking, well, 2 centimeters, I don't really like it, but I'm going to make it. I was not in the mood to change everything, and I had it already cut. So I was thinking, well, put the bands again against the paper to see if they did not stretch. So I was in the shower last night, and I was thinking, well, I really wanted to adjust, because I did not read well the instructions, the seam allowance against around the neckline are also 1.5 centimeters. And I know, at least for me, I find it really hard, and I don't enjoy it, sewing a curve like this. A curve like this with 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. That's really difficult to do and not very enjoyable. And you'll have, if you use the original pattern piece with the original seam allowance, the 1.5 centimeters, in the instructions there is a step where SewOverIt advised to put some gathering stitches here and ease a little bit this in order to fit it into the dress. But I think the far more easier way is to just make a 6mm seam allowance around the neckline and all the way around the neckline, and then this will go really easy. So that was my plan, to adjust the seam allowance, and I was not so happy about it, because again I had my pieces already cut, and that meant that I will have to put everything again straight on the table to be sure that it did not stretch out, to take away 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around the neckline of the dress and also on the neck bands. And I was not really happy to do that. So last night in the shower I was thinking, to make my life easy, I decided that if I use only 1 centimeter seam allowance both on the outside and the inside of the band, that will give me also immediately the wider band that I wanted. So this is what I did in the end. I used 1 centimeter seam allowance, and even with 1 centimeter seam allowance it went okay. I didn't have to do the easing on the back piece here, but it went but it was not very easy. But I think for the future I'm going to adjust all this seam allowance to a 6mm seam allowance. So using the 1 centimeter gave me this beautiful band of 3 centimeter width, which I really love, and this is how the back is looking. I have here just a few drag lines, and that is because, as I said, I did not have enough fabric to cut my bands. So I had to play a little bit around with the, or I had to play a little bit around with the pieces, and that meant also not really cutting on the grain, I think, although I did my best to cut them on the grain. But in the end I made a mistake, because I wanted to fuse, of course, to fuse the outer bands, but I don't know what I did, and I fused I did not fuse a pair of the bands, I fused 2 left or 2 rights, let's say. So I did not want to fuse both of them, because then I was afraid that I'm going to get a really very bulky band here in the front. So my solution was to use 1 interfaced band on the outside and 1 interface band on the inside. And of course you immediately see here that this is the one that is not interfaced, and this is the one that is interfaced. It's much straighter and nicer, but you know, what can I do? I did take care to put the one that is interfaced on the right part of the dress, on the outside because I knew that this is going to show the most. So always think in solutions and not so much in problems. And then, as I said, I'm really happy with it. I think it's the perfect width, or at least this is what I think, or I like it on me. And of course it came also being wider, it came a little bit higher on the neck and a little bit higher on the shoulder here, which I think is really good. So this was the dress. I'm just going to put it off for a moment and I'm going to show you the inside, because I was talking about changing a little bit the sewing order in order to make a little bit of an adjustment. So I'm going to put it off, put something else on, and show you the inside of the dress. I have the dress off and I just wanted to show you the inside of it. This is what I end up using for the inside of the band, because you know I just had there was just not enough fabric to cut all the pieces, but again that's really not a problem, you cannot see that. So this is how the inside is looking. As you can see, here is a seam somewhere, and you can see here the details really nicely, I think. The gathers, and here is the right part, the right side of the dress as worn, let's say. And here you can see the big hole, because you need to have a big hole in this dress, as the ties are really wide. And I'm not sure how their instructions are, but I think I did read that you should stitch around the hole. So here you can see that I did top stitch here around the hole. I made the seam allowance inside a little bit smaller in order not to poke out. And this is the hole from the outside. Oh, and also for the, as I said, the band, for the inside of the band I also did not have enough fabric. The change that I made was, and because of that I had to change a little bit the order of construction. In the instructions, you sew the bands, the outside of the bands, including attaching the ties to the bands, and then you understitch the bands, and then you sew them or you baste them together, and then the band doubled, so you sew it onto the dress, and I think you top stitch, something like that. But that will give you, you finish the seam and then you top stitch, but that will give you, of course, a seam here on the band. And I was afraid that when I'm walking, or if it's a little bit windy outside, you are going to see that serged seam, which I have nothing against. I love my I love using the serger for everything, but in this case I was thinking it would give a much nicer finish if I was to you know, to make the more classic attachment of this band. And that means, you know, to sew the outside of the band, and then the inside of the band you just fold it, and then top stitching from the outside. I'm just going to show you this one, because this one is neater. This one is the one that is on the outside is interfaced and the inside is not. So this is what I did. I just stitched one part of the outside band to the dress, and then the inside of the dress, the inside of the band, I just folded the seam allowance and then top stitched from the outside. And I think that's giving a really nice finish all the way around the band. So if this is going to fly open, I'm going to let it fly, because it's really neat. Something else, because I changed a little bit the order of construction, I had to improvise a little bit here at the hem, but I think you know, I waited a little bit with top stitching all the way down with my band. I folded the hem, and then I enclosed that edge here into it, and I came back with still have some thread here. I came back and top stitched it all the way down. That gave me a really nice and neat hem. So that was it. This is the Norah dress inside out, and of course outside out is also very nice. I hope you enjoyed my video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give me thumbs up. That helps the video to come up, you know, in the list on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you got some tips about making the Norah dress. I really like it. It's a very easy style and it's really comfortable. I mean, I wore it already for a few hours here inside while I was making pictures and preparing this, and it's a really great dress, very comfortable, very easy to make. And I did make my pictures with heels, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to wear this dress with sneakers, because, you know, it's the style of today and it's really comfortable and easy. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time on the next video here on the channel. Bye everyone!